Om Jnana-timirandhasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So, when I was 15 years old, I lived in a city called Lagos. Anyone know where Lagos is? That's right. Nigeria. And I was in Lagos for a good part of my school life. And my mother took me when I was 15 years old to a Swami who was teaching about Bhagavad Gita. And my interest in Bhagavad Gita awakened in that association with that Swami. He was from the Chinmay mission, some of you know. And that was very moving for me. I started to read about the Vedic philosophy. I started to hear lectures. Those days we had tape recorders, what do you call them? Walkmans? Do you remember Walkmans?
Yeah.
Yeah. For those who are a little younger, you probably have no idea what a Walkman is. Man who walks. It was a little cassette player that we would listen. So I used to listen to lectures on Ishopanishad, which was called Ishavasya Upanishad, and other things, Bhagavad Gita and so forth. My interest was in Bhagavad Gita. I really appreciated Bhagavad Gita. When I was 17 years old, about to embark on the journey of crazy college life in Spain, my uncle gave me a Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, which is there. Let me grab it. So I know some of you have seen this version, the blue one, where Krishna and Arjuna in the front. Very visible anyway. So I got this one when I was 17, so about 2 years ago. That's a joke. And I opened it. I started reading from the introduction. My realization, first when I got it, I was like, wow, Bhagavad Gita. I hadn't seen a Bhagavad Gita before, and here I had a Bhagavad Gita in my hand. So I started to read the introduction. And my experience was that I couldn't understand a word from the introduction. I was like, what's going on here? My realization was I needed a guru, I needed a teacher. And then I conveniently put the Bhagavad Gita to the side, went through college life, details of which I will not tell you about. I haven't even told my wife. And then after college was over, I had some money, I had some time, and so I explored, the spiritual sampler plate. Brahma Kumaris, Satya Sai Baba, Art of Living, what else? Of course, Chinmay Mission, and ISKCON. I think that's it. Maybe there was more. But those were at least 5 that I explored. And I was looking for philosophy. I was looking for something that had awakened when I was 15 years old. And for me, it was Bhagavad Gita. So many people joined ISKCON because of prasadam, or because of the devotees, or in spite of the devotees they joined. In my case, the attraction was Bhagavad Gita. And in fact, I started So you know, my initial attraction and absorption or appreciation was the Chinmaya mission. So at one point, as I was associating with the devotees, I took an independent study program. On one side I had this Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, and on the other side I had the Chinmaya Bhagavad Gita, and I did a verse-to-verse comparison study. This was about 23. And at one point I slammed shut the Chinmaya Gita, gave it to a friend, and I said, good luck with it, and I continued with Bhagavad Gita. This is Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita. So I was lucky to do that. I even remember very distinctly, every time I see Balaram Prasad Prabhu, I remember very distinctly my early days of Krishna consciousness. Do you remember this? There was an exchange with him and me where it was at some home program or something, and where he said the goal of life is bhakti. And I looked at him and I said, no, the goal of life is liberation. Do you remember that? You don't remember that. And his response, I will never forget his response, because it really left an impact on me. His response was he didn't fight it. He knew this guy is one, thinks himself too smart kind of guy, or whatever he was thinking, I don't know. But he didn't say a word, he just allowed it to pass. And later on I realized that exchange was very meaningful, that he didn't try to correct me. Krishna actually recommends in the Bhagavad Gita, 3rd chapter, twice. He says, don't disturb the minds of those who are attached. And then, for me, Bhagavad Gita was what brought me to the Hare Krishna movement. And I've since studied the Bhagavad Gita a number of times, and I've done the Bhakti Shastri materials 3 times. Once, of course, through the actual getting a certificate with it and all. And then I've also had the opportunity to share the teachings of Bhagavad Gita, and still do today. So I started a conference call recently, not recently, this year again, and we're now in the 3rd chapter. So for me, Bhagavad Gita is very special. And I want to thank Shatarupa Mataji. I know what inspired her to invite me to today's talk, and she said it's Gita Jayanti, yesterday was Gita Jayanti, to speak something about Bhagavad Gita. More important than, of course it's nice to spend time with all of you, but more important for me was the ability to just dive deeply into the Bhagavad Gita on this particular topic. And the topic that I have for today is the Fantastic Four. I've got a bunch of circuits there. Oops. Okay. Oh. That's unintended. Okay. So you can see my screen? You know what the Fantastic Four is? Yeah. You've seen the movie? Who's seen the movie? Don't worry, we won't tell anybody else. Fantastic Four? This comic strip idea came back in 1961, so I'm sure pretty much everybody in this room has been exposed to it. When I was growing up, this was very famous, the Fantastic Four. But I'm going to talk about, we're not going to watch this movie. What we are going to do is we're going to talk about the fantastic 4 verses from the Bhagavad Gita. Okay? It's called, in Sanskrit, it's called the Chatur Shloki. Chatur means 4 and Shloki is of shlokas, or verses. So the 4 most important verses of the Bhagavad Gita. These 4 verses are described by Acharyas as the essence of the Bhagavad Gita. These 4 verses can take the entire message of Bhagavad Gita, compress it down, and you get these 4 verses, Chatur Shloki. They're very deep. In fact, our Acharyas say that if you can fully understand these 4 verses, then your life is perfect. You will achieve pure devotional service. pure bhakti, beyond liberation, by properly studying these 4 verses, or properly understanding these 4 verses. That is the beauty of these 4. So what I'm trying to do is go through, just sort of skim the surface, because of course I've done a class for each of these verses in the past, and we have about 45 minutes to cover all 4. So again, it will be a very surface level kind of exploration, but hopefully there'll be sufficient information for some relishing of these verses. Okay? So this is the first verse, 10th chapter, text 8. Let me give you a little context before we go to the verse. So Bhagavad Gita is divided into 18 chapters. Right at the center of the Bhagavad Gita is 934, which is the last verse of the 9th chapter. That's the center of the Bhagavad Gita. And that verse is one of 2 verses or 2 couplets that are repeated twice in the Bhagavad Gita. And that couplet is Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. Those 2 verses, those 2 lines of that verse, again are repeated in the 18th chapter, where Krishna says the same thing. After Krishna says that, that's the end of the 9th chapter. Then in the 10th chapter, which is titled Vibhuti Yoga, Vibhuti means the greatness or the opulence of Krishna in this material world. Material opulences. And those vibhutis are specifically elaborated from text 18 onwards, because Arjuna asked the question, can you tell me what are your vibhutis? How can I see you, Krishna, in this material world? So Krishna goes on to explain a number of things, such as, of all the mountains, I am the Himalayas. Of all the Vedas, I am the Samaveda, and so on and so on. So basically the best of everything. Of all the horses, I am Ucheshava. So there's varieties of entities and the varieties of category of things in this material world, and Krishna says, I am the best of each one of them. So he tries to give Arjuna ways to see him in this world. He says, of all luminaries, I am the sun and the moon. So it's a very nice thing to wake up in the morning and to see the sun. Hopefully it's a little before you wake up. But you can see the sun, or you see the moon now, and to think of Krishna. Krishna says, that's me. So that's late in the chapter. But before that part, what Krishna begins with in the 10th chapter, he makes the point that he is the source of everything. All the sages, all the Prajapatis, all the wonderful qualities we might see in people, or even the bad qualities we might see in people, Krishna says it comes from me. Fear and fearlessness, etc., etc. And then he comes to these 4 essential verses of Chaturshloki. The previous verse, 10.7, the 7th verse of 10th chapter, Krishna says, Etam vibhutim yogam cha mama yo veti tattvataha so vikalpena yogena yujjate natra samshayaha, which means Etam vibhutim, for those who know these vibhutis of mine and these yoga, Etam vibhutim yogam cha, so those who know vibhutis, my opulences, and yogam means his qualities. Qualities such as the fact that Krishna is unborn. Each one of us, we're born. And fortunately, unfortunately, we have bodies that took birth at some point in the past, and at some point they're going to dissolve, and that's it. So that quality of Krishna, that he is unborn, is really only his. So that's his yogas, or his mystic powers. One who knows that tattvataha, one who knows it in truth. So it's explained that this tatvata means one who understands these things with faith, with conviction. This is true. Right? Sometimes we may hear things that with a sense of speculation, and other times we might hear with conviction. This is absolutely true. So Krishna says, if you hear about these vibhutis and these yogams, these opulences, this mystic power of mine, with faith, then what happens as a result? So vikalpena yogena, that such persons engage in bhakti yoga without any ulterior motive. You know, they don't take prasadam because their tongues are hungry. They take prasadam because they want to honor prasadam. That's their mood. So vikalpena, completely fixed. The same or similar phrase is used later in the Bhagavad Gita called avyabhichari bhakti, unmotivated devotional service. So that's the conclusion. Now starts text 8, the beginning, the first part of the Chaturshloki. And it's a very similar message to text 7. So I'd like to invite someone to chant the verse and lead us in the verse, and we'll respond with you. Anyone would like to volunteer? Yes, sir.
Aham sarvasya prabhu matta.
Well, can you read one line and we'll repeat after you?
Okay. Aham sarvasya prabhu.
Aham sarvasya prabhu.
Matta sarvam pravartate.
Matta sarvam pravartate.
Iti matva bhajante mam.
Iti matva bhajante mam.
Buddha bhava samanvita.
Buddha bhava samanvita. Thank you. Very nice. So, the first line, I'm going to explain each verse like this. We'll go through. The first line where Krishna says aham. What does aham mean? I, me. Right? Sarvasya. Sarva means everything. Aham sarvasya. Now this word, prabhava. Prabhavo. Prabhavaha. Bhava means, anyone knows what bhava means?
Expression.
Bhava means existence. Bhava, like in very simple, the first Sanskrit class we learn is Bhavatava nama kim, Bhavatyaha nama bhava means you exist. And what's your name? Bhava. Bhava is to exist. Right? Prabhava is to manifest, is to come, to come into existence. So Krishna is saying, Aham sarvasya prabhava. Everything comes into existence because of the Big Bang. No, because of him. So Krishna is the source of everything. Next. Next one is Matta sarvam pravartate. Matta, from me, sarvam. Sarvam again, same message. Pravartate. If we look at the Sanskrit, so look at the English translation, it says everything emanates from me. The first one is I'm the source of all spiritual and material worlds. And then everything emanates from me. It's the same thing. It's seemingly the same thing. But on one sense, it is the same thing because Krishna is making the emphatic statement, I am the source of everything. And in case you didn't get it, everything comes from me. You know? It's like saying, Premananda Mataji is the temple president. If you didn't get it, the temple president is Premananda Mataji.
Everybody gets it.
You get it. Make sure you get it. So Krishna is establishing his authoritative position. That's one way to look at it. Another way that Baladev Vidyabhushan explains this is that matta. What does matta mean? Matta means coming from. Do you know anyone know a verse that came a little earlier in the Bhagavad Gita that has this word matta?
Matta parataram nanya.
I was waiting for the scholar to say something really good. Say the whole thing.
I don't
Please.
know if I remember.
Try.
Matta parataram nanyat kinchidasti dhananjaya.
Then Mayi Sarvam.
Mayi sarvamiti pro.
Mayi Sarvamidam Protam
Sutre
Sutre
maniganaiva.
So what did he say there? Krishna is saying, in comparison to myself, there's no one better than me. No one greater than me. Matta parataram nanyam. So, anyone superior to me? No, there's nobody there. Like that. So matta, from me, everything, pravartate. Pravartate is to operates. It begins to move. Right? So once the way to look at it is that aham sarvasya prabhavat, everything comes from Krishna, and from Krishna everything is operating. In philosophy, since it's a wonderful Sunday evening, I'm sure everyone's ready for some philosophy, there's a distinction between theism and deism. Theism is to believe in God. Believe in the fact that there is a God, and that God is the source of everything. And deism is to believe there's a God, and God is the source of everything, but he kind of checks out once he's made everything. It's they use a common expression, a clock maker or a watchmaker. If a watchmaker makes a watch and you wear the watch, he has nothing to do with the watch. Now, the source of the watch is the watchmaker, but he's not actively dealing with the watch. I am. The material world is sourced from something, and if we have some piety, we may say, okay, it comes from God. But then what's making it run? There's some crazy things that happen in this world. Inexplicably crazy things. Watch the news and it's like, oh my God, I can't believe those people did that. Or we hear from our family members and can't believe our family members did that. Or sometimes things happen with us and we can't believe I did that. Crazy stuff happens. So what's making things stick in this world? Krishna is saying, Matta sarvam pravartate. The operation of this world is sourced by me. So that's the first two lines. Okay, so then the third line, iti. Iti matva. Matva is knowing. This word matva, our Acharya explained, it's the kind of knowing that gets illuminated by hearing from disciplic succession. Iti matva. It's not that we speculate or figure out, oh, Krishna is the source of everything. Rather, it's by descending knowledge. Evam parampara brahma. Krishna says in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita that we get this knowledge from scripture, from bona fide scripture, from proper teachers explaining that scripture, and then a willingness to apply these three things. When you have proper scripture, a proper teacher of the scripture, and a willingness to apply, then you get this thing called matva. You actually, the light bulb goes off. I get it. And what do we get? And then we get these first two lines, and the consequence or a symptom of matva, a symptom that we've understood properly, is the next thing, or the next few words, which is we bhajante ma, we actually start to worship God. Bhaj in the 6th chapter, Krishna explains, Prabhupada explains, bhajante is to engage in service to Krishna, actively use our senses in service to Krishna. Bhajante ma. Such learned people, Buddha, they bhaj, they serve Krishna with bhava samanvita. Bhava is very different than the word bhava. This bhava is with emotion, ecstasy. You want to give Krishna with love. It's not like somebody has to clean the pots and you're going, oh no, clean the pots. Begrudgingly, it's not that kind. It's bhava samanvita. It's with love you want to do something for Krishna. when you actually know that Krishna is the source of everything, that everything is operated indirectly by Krishna, then you want to love Krishna. That's what Krishna said. That you consequently, if you properly understood it, if you properly understood Krishna's position, you naturally want to serve it. Now some people may kind of get a little upset with Krishna because he's the source of everything. You're the source of my crazy family member, whoever that is. Right? Or when in the story of Chitraketu in the Bhagavatam, somebody said, somebody had killed Chitraketu's kid, and when his kid died, the mother became so upset, and guess who she blamed? She blamed God. And she screamed, "Oh, why did you do this? Why?" So there's a little quality here. If our matva is not very good, if we've not properly understood what is the role of me in this entire cosmos, then we'll start to look at God with a critical eye. But if we've really understood our position, then the natural consequences we want to serve with love. Okay? Now Acharyas also in Bhagavad Gita purport, Prabhupada brings a number of verses from the various Shruti mantras, from the various Vedas, to explain how Krishna is God. So we know from, besides Bhagavad Gita, we know from Srimad Bhagavatam, Ete Cham Sakala Pumsa, Krishnastu Bhagwan Swayam. Krishna is the topmost incarnation, and so forth. There's the source of all incarnations. And then in a variety of Vedas as well, Upanishads, it's also described how Krishna is the source of everything. So that's text 1, 10.8. That's fantastic 1. Now we go to fantastic 2. Okay? Supposed to move. There we go. Somebody else would like to lead us with this verse? Okay.
Machchitta madgata prana
Machchitta madgata prana
bodhayantah parasparam kadayantascha mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha.
Thank you. So in this verse, for those who are now understood who Krishna is and are starting to engage in this devotional service and have started to and are making good advancement, this verse talks about the first line and the last line talk about the internal mood of the devotee, and the middle two talk about the external activities of the devotee. Okay. So mat chitta, Prabhupada translates it as their minds fully engaged in me. Mat chitta. Chitta means like cheta, is a consciousness. When the consciousness is fully absorbed in Krishna, when you're always thinking of him, basically, you're always thinking about Krishna. Oh boy, it would be nice. That's Mat Chitta. And then Mat Gata Prana. This is a very nice phrase. Their lives devoted to me. Mat Gata Prana. This is their lives devoted to me. Vishwachakya Thakur explains it this way. Mat Gata Prana means that you cannot live without it. And he says this is for the devotees. For most people, for the Nara, for the most people, it is Anna Gata Prana. Do you get it? Anna means not big brother, but it means food. Anna Gata Prana is that for a man or a woman, I guess, food is like, how can I live without it? So, for example, if we were to say no prasadam tonight, how do you feel? But we said no kirtan tonight, how would you feel? No, Kirtan, okay. We'll go home and do something. But no prasadam tonight. How would you feel? He said, for men, food is, it's what sustains me. How can I do without it? He says, just like that, for the devotee, mad gata prana, they cannot live without Krishna. It's like, I cannot, you get epilepsy. I need kirtan. I need devotee association. I need Krishna. Somehow, somewhere, I need Krishna. The mad gata prana. Another analogy used by Baladeva Vidyabhushan is like fish out of water. When you take a fish out of water, they cannot survive. They need to be in the water. You've heard this analogy before, right? Fish out of water. The soul being out of relationship with Krishna is like a fish being out of water. They also have a comic strip. They have a fish sitting on a beach chair, lounging with a cigar in his hand. I don't know if he has a cigar in his fin, and he's got a social magazine he's reading, and he's got a hamburger he's being supplied, and things like that. But the fish can never be happy, right? But I have a question. This is for the scholars in the room. Anyone know where this fish out of water analogy comes from? Suddenly I realized this. Prabhupada has a lot of analogies, and a lot of them you'll find actually in the scriptures. Anyone know? It's in the Srimad Bhagavatam. There's a section of prayers by Prahlad Maharaj in the 5th canto. There's anyone know this verse? Yasyasti bhakti bhagavat kinchana sarve gune tatra samasate sura harava bhaktasya kuto mahat guna manorathena sati dhavato bahi. Right? You know that verse? The very next verse is this. Hari Sakshat Bhagavan something like that. Pranitam. Atma Jasanam Ivatoyam Ipsitam. So Jasana means those are aquatics. Ivatoyam Ipsitam. That just like aquatics cannot live, they love water. Toyam is water. They love water so much. Just like that, the Atma, the soul, wants Krishna, needs Krishna. And then the verse continues. Hedvamaham stam yadi sajjate grihe. And if they give up this natural and great position of wanting and living with Krishna to become attached to household life, it's very sad. So it's 5:18-13 Bhagavad Gita. So Bhagavatam. So Madgata Prana, that for the devotee being with Krishna, for such people, Madchitta, Madgata Prana, that kind of mood, internal mood, how do they act? That's these two. The first one is Bodhayanta Parasparam. Like what we're doing now, we're sharing, we're discussing with one another the juice or the nectar of Krishna consciousness. Actually, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains Bodhayanta Parasparam is to explain what is bhakti, what are the different types of bhakti, and what are the stages of bhakti, like that. That is Bodhayanta Parasparam. And then Kathayantascha Mam Nityam. And then to be chanting Krishna's name constantly. Chanting Krishna's name, his qualities, his pastimes, etc. We're going to see in the next two verses, we'll see Krishna's qualities. Specific. Of course, we'll be chanting his name just by saying Krishna. But we'll also be seeing what are his qualities. Because these first two verses, text 8 and text 9, are discussing what the devotee does, or what the soul who's trying to reach reality does. And the next two verses discuss what Krishna, who is the absolute reality, how he approaches the living entity. Okay? So the first two is our responsibility, and the next two is Krishna's department. And we'll see what Krishna's qualities are in Krishna's department in the next two. Okay? Kathayantascha mam nityam. Nityam. The word nitya means constantly, regularly. They're constantly chanting and discussing with one another. And the result is tushyanti cha ramanti cha. What is tushyanti? Satisfied. They become pleased or they become satisfied and they enjoy transcendental bliss. The difference is, tushyanti is a feeling, let's say you've been fasting all day. When Janmashtami usually fast until midnight, and then after a full day of fasting you get to have a little prasad. Maybe a lot of prasad. No. And when you have prasad, it's like, oh, there's this, that hankering is now satisfied. It's when you're traversing a desert and you get some water at the end of the desert, it's the satisfaction. Where you're not needy anymore. People in this world generally tend to be needy for affection, needy for appreciation, needy for attention, especially children, needy for attention, or if they're teenagers, needy for money. Needy, but there's no more needs. And then Ramanti is to experience a joy, it's like an ecstasy. Okay? So Acharya gives a little more description around Ramanti. One Acharya, Baldev Vidyabhushan, says it's like a young boy enjoying the smiling glances of a young girl. Yeah, I don't necessarily need it, but now you've got a nice young girl smiling at you. I mean, assuming you're a nice young boy. And the heart kind of goes, bubble. Well, if anyone's experienced it, I don't know if you have. You don't have to share if you have. Just today we were having lunch with a young couple and they were sharing with us their experience with this. Notice it doesn't say like a man experiencing glances from a wife, Usually the glances from the wife is more like, what did I do wrong? There's a joke. There's one time I used to really get into husband-wife jokes. There was this wife, she looks across the street and she sees, look at that neighbor. Every time he goes to work, he gives his wife a kiss before he goes. So she tells her, why don't you do that? Then he's looking, I don't even know her. How can So this young boy, very specific, a young boy enjoys the smiling glance of a young girl. It's the number one enjoyment in this world, male-female attraction. Acharyas say that attraction, that happiness that we may be looking for even in older ages, that can be experienced with just doing this, hearing and chanting about Krishna. Tushyanti cha ramanti cha. One really cool thing that I thought was brought up here by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He says, Matchitta means remembering, Bodhayanta means hearing, to hear what others have to say about Krishna, and Kathayanta is to kirtan. So you have Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam. All three. Yeah. You see, these three, so Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atmanivedanam. These 9 processes of devotional service are there. Of the 9 processes, these 3 processes of bhakti are the most important. The first, most important, is Shravanam, is to hear about Krishna. Because that hearing gives us the matva that we saw in the previous verse, right? Shravanam, and then Kirtanam, to chant Krishna's name, and then Smaranam, Majjitta, to always think of Krishna. So, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to share just a couple other things. This feeling of happiness, tushti and ramanti, is not only reserved for very advanced devotees. I had two very recent experiences. I was on a flight for work from Toronto to where? Chicago, and and on that flight, it was about a 1-hour flight or so. And right next to me, I had this mid-30s young Caucasian man, younger than me, and he just started, he was chatting, and we were chatting, and so he was asking me, so do you like your work? You should really like your work, and that kind of stuff. It's okay, it's my duty, but I have, deeper interest in it. And we started talking about meditation, and next thing we know, he was sharing about his life. He was taking some guidance on how to raise children. There was this whole discussion about God. He was telling me about his religion, how he's given up his religion. One thing I felt really happy about at the end of the discussion is that he felt nurtured in his Christian religion after the conversation. So that was a very fulfilling experience for me. But it was so nice, just 1 hour together, chatting, and he's like, wow, this is really amazing, and we got off the plane and we hugged just spontaneously. Tushanticha and Ramanticha, just talking about these soul level matters bring so much happiness. And another recent experience I had was, I was visiting my parents in Pune, and their next door neighbor, again, it started through, I said something about meditation. That's usually my little, drop something to see if people are interested, go any deeper. And the next thing you know, he's now joining Bhagavad Gita classes every week. And we went for a walk together in Pune, and we were just talking about these deep soul matters, and it so happy. You could see the person light up and become a 100-watt bulb. I remember when we first learned these 4 verses when our spiritual master was speaking them when we were living in St. Louis, more than anything else, more than the messages, what I remember is when he was speaking it, he had this brightness to him, like he was glowing like this 100-watt light bulb, just speaking about Krishna and the process of Krishna consciousness. It was beautiful. Bodhayanta parasparam. This is so nice. To spend time with one another, not to discuss politics, not to discuss whether, Tulsi Gabbard or whoever, Elizabeth Warren is going to be the president, not that kind of stuff, but just talking about Krishna. And our soul matters will be so nourishing. In fact, if you study in the Srimad Bhagavatam, devotee after devotee after devotee, imagine Krishna standing in front of you. What would you ask Krishna for? What would you ask Krishna? Moksha. Moksha. What else would you ask? Mercedes? Sorry?
I want you.
You want?
Krishna.
Krishna, okay. I want Krishna. Yes. I want Krishna. When you look at the Srimad Bhagavatam, when you see each devotee, Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruva Maharaj, Lord Shiva, the Prachit, all of them are asking for one thing. They don't have any other request from Krishna. They only have one request because he's already there. You want Krishna, but he's already there. So what do you want now that he's there? You know what they ask for? If you look at all of them, they ask for the association of devotees. Give me the association of devotees. It's so beautiful. Okay, so sorry, I get stuck with that one. I'll keep going. So someone want to read the translation, please? You want to read? Let's read.
The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me.
Okay. So now we're going to skip to text 10. Now, this is our responsibility, 8 and 9. 10 and 11. How does Krishna respond? When he sees there's some desire to want him, to know him, how does he respond? Someone want to read? Yes, sir.
Tesham
satata-yuktanam bhajatam priti-purvakam dadami buddhi-yogam tam yena mām-upayanti te. So Tesham means all those that I was talking about earlier, all those guys, those wonderful devotees. Satata-yuktanam, who are constantly engaged. The word was nityam in the previous verse, but satata-yuktanam, constantly engaged. Bhajatam priti-purvakam. They're serving me. The same word bhaj is used. Remember which verse had this word? Bhaj? Bhajante? We just went through it. Huh?
8.
Text 8, yeah. So bhajatam priti-purvakam. Priti means is love. Purvakam means like filled with love. Very similar to 2 verses earlier, which was Bhava Samanvita. You see that? Bhava, the last 2. Bhava Samanvita. This is very similar to Priti Purvakam. Priti Purvakam. Filled with, they're serving Krishna with love. Not begrudgingly. What does Krishna do? Dadami. Dadami is to give. Dadami buddhi yoga. I give them this thing called buddhi yoga, which is elaborately explained in the 2nd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, second half of the 2nd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Dadami buddhi yogam tam. Buddhi yoga is that intelligence of spiritual life. Yena, by which mam upayanti te. Upayanti means to come near. By which they can come near to me. I give them that intelligence. I give them that guidance, that internal guidance. Devotees help us to understand who Krishna is, and then Krishna takes charge of us. If we so desire, Krishna takes charge. He makes this personal connection with us from within our hearts. He gives us his buddhi yoga. Directs our activities. A lot of time people are confused. What should I do in my life? What's next? That what should I do is the lacking of buddhi yoga. And if there's bhajatam priti purvakam, have patience, Krishna guides from within. Or with our services, how to properly do a particular service. That guidance comes from Krishna. That's what he's saying, buddhi yoga. That guidance comes in such a way that Krishna teaches us how to, or directs us how to come closer to him. He's attracting us to him. That's why his name is Krishna. Krishna is to attract. He brings us closer to him through this process of bhakti. So the real question for us is, what is our goal? What do we really, really want in life? Have you ever thought about it and written down, what do I want in my life? Like, what do I really, really want? Deep down inside of me, what am I looking for? Even if someone is not intelligent, I'll read for you a little bit of how Prabhupada explains it, because it's so nice. So nice. This is Krishna's quality. A person may have a bona fide spiritual master and may be attached to a spiritual organization like ISKCON. But still, if he's not intelligent enough to make progress, then Krishna from within gives him instructions so that he may ultimately come to him without difficulty. This is the kindness of Krishna. I've been studying Brahma's prayers in the 10th canto, and there's a verse that says, who can estimate the qualities of Krishna, this person who's come for the welfare of all beings, for our upliftment. Maybe someday scientists can count how many particles, atoms make up the world. Maybe they can count how many snowflakes are there in the sky. Maybe they can count how many particles of sunlight are coming from the sun. But they can never count the number of qualities of Krishna. Krishna is so filled with qualities. Gunatmanaste. Like filled with qualities. So Krishna, when he sees a little bit of sincerity in the heart, that's what he's looking for, a little bit of sincerity, then Krishna gives us knowledge by which we can come to him. This buddhi that Krishna gives here, buddhi yoga. If you see in text 8 the word matva, we talked about matva, right? You get matva, knowledge from the spiritual master, from the scriptures about who Krishna really is. Then buddhi yoga, this is a little distinct. The matva is knowledge, and then that inspires devotion. And this buddhi yoga is when engaging in devotional activities to have the proper intelligence of how to go about and execute those activities. That is buddhi yoga. How to properly use the senses in service to Krishna. In other words, how to apply the teachings we have heard. Somebody can read the translation, please? Maybe Prabhu can.
To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me.
Okay. So now text 11. Somebody may say, but what about so many years and lifetimes of having been in the material realm? We're a soul who has taken on so many bodies, and so we're struggling. We've got contaminations. Even though we don't want to get angry, we get angry. Even though we don't want to be envious, we're envious. What to do? It's a little bit of, my spiritual master likes to call it stench, like vomit stench. Sorry to be graphic. But he shares the experience of one time he went to Singapore. He got into a taxi, and the taxi was still smelling of somebody throwing up previously, and the driver tried to clean it up, but he couldn't get it. So it's like that. Sometimes one's heart may be that contaminated. What do? You still have contamination. There's this verse. Somebody want to read the? Go ahead, Prabhu. Teshamevanukampatham aham ajnanajam tamah nashayami atmabhavasto jnanadipena bhasvata. To them, to these souls who are given buddhi yoga but may still have some lingering issues, anukampartham, I give my mercy, my special mercy. And what is that special mercy? That I sit within their heart of hearts, atma bhavasto. The example is given like a bee in the whirl of a lotus. Or another example is, or Vishwachakri Thakur explains that Krishna enters into the workings of our intelligence and he drives our intelligence. I destroy this ajnana jam. Whatever nonsense is there in their life, I destroy it with the shining lamp, Jnana Deepena, with the shining lamp of knowledge. Nashyami, Krishna he personally destroys it. Krishna takes care of his devotees. If there's one thing we can understand and learn from Krishna and his devotees, is that Krishna takes care of his devotees. It's a felt experience. Krishna takes care of us. Even if we may be struggling with so much, let's say we're even practicing Krishna consciousness and we're struggling with so many things, leave it to Krishna. Let him work his magic. Don't get overly absorbed with our own frailties. We have frailties, but the beauty is we have Krishna, and he's very kind. Okay. So I'll pause there. Those are the Chatur Shloki verses. Like I said, I tried to cover some parts. Certainly we could go a little deeper, but that's it. So we have a few minutes. Any questions or comments?
Just one comment.
Yeah.
You know, since I've been really God conscious or Krishna conscious, some time ago, since I was a little boy growing up. But to me, the very best, the very good thing or the best thing in life, like when we have come all the way today, this was in my mind all day, is being Krishna or God conscious. The best thing. Because you got everything being the best, being Krishna conscious. But you got to stick to it. No matter what happens with this body, you get over it.
Yeah. Thank you. Please bless me that I can stick with it.
Krishna conscious.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Prabhu.
So Prabhu, this Dadami Buddhi Yoga, just if someone can say then why we need Guru, because Krishna is giving intelligence from within. So how do we answer that?
Krishna, this is the third verse.
First one there.
This is the third verse. For us to even engage in the first two lines requires Guru. Right? Where does bhakti come from? Maharaj came here and did Madhurya Kadambini series, and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur analyzes where does bhakti come from. Right? And he goes to this option, the other option, the third option, and the result is, his conclusion is, bhakti comes from one who's carrying bhakti, one who has dedication in their heart. That's how we get dedicated. Think about it. When you walk in here and you see Premananda Mataji working for the service of the devotees, it's like, okay, let me help a little bit at least. Right? So we get inspired to dedicate by associating with those who are dedicated. And what is dedication? Is another word for bhakti is dedication. Yeah, then that's the first two lines. Then Krishna reciprocates with, oh, there's some interest in me. So spiritual master is like a matchmaker. Okay, so shall we end? I think it's 6:30. Okay. I wanted to just mention one thing. I intended to do this, we didn't have time, but think about this. Recount a time when you experienced serving Krishna with love. Or with a little bit of love, a little bit of affection. And you experienced a little bit of happiness in serving Krishna. When was that? And then see if there was any elements from these Chatur Shloki verses that made that happen. So contemplate, maybe during prasadam you can think about it, discuss with whoever you're sitting with during prasadam and spend some time discussing these Chatur Shloki verses. Okay? Alright. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Thank you all very much for your kind attention. You need this room. How do I turn it off?
Yamuna, Jivana, Prabhu. Really appreciate your presence here. Hope you will come back very soon. Not just, you were telling you came inspired to speak Bhagavad Gita, but even otherwise, always. Thank you so much. So, just a couple of announcements. Today's Sunday feast is sponsored by 3 families. Meera Mataji, she is seeking Krishna's blessings. Is she here? Meera Mataji, please come. Thank you so very much. Krishna Kodila Prabhu, is he here? Probably working downstairs. And we have Niranjan Satyasri and Sai Mishita. They are celebrating their wedding anniversary. They are here. Here we go. Thank you so very, very much. So for the spiritual well-being of all these families who are sponsoring Sunday feast, please chant with me the Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So anyone can do this service. The upcoming weeks, it is all open. Anybody would like to sponsor Sunday feast? Today I don't see Ramdas Prabhu here. So if anyone would like to sponsor, you can either come and see me or Pradibahu Prabhu over there. There is one more family. These are like the Vittala Big Brick program. I don't see that poster anymore. But for the construction of the temple, we have sponsorship opportunities for bricks, and those who sponsor also get part of the sponsorship reciprocation. They also get to celebrate a Sunday feast. And today there is a person by name Rishikesh who sponsored Vittala Brick program. He is also part of the Sunday Feast sponsorship program. One last announcement is about the construction of the new temple. As you all know, you have seen all those posters everywhere. We are moving forward with the plan with all your support and cooperation. So every week, by Krishna's mercy, one step forward. There is a person by name Surendra N. Kumar who has given a donation of 2,000 this week. Just wanted to appreciate his donation. And we are making systematic efforts to reach out into the extended community. Each and every one of you can help us to build this temple. There are so many information flyers on that, near that where the credit card machine is there. If you want, you can take that and use it. You yourself can contribute towards this program, or you can reach out to your friends and family and spread the word and make it happen. Also, this is we just celebrated Gita Jayanti, and anybody interested in distributing Bhagavad Gitas, please contact Amrita Kelly.
Balram Prasad Prabhu has a short announcement regarding that matter.
About that?
Yeah, just couple minutes.
This is about the Bhagavad Gita?
Yeah, Gita.
Okay. So he is going to speak. I did not know that. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for the wonderful class. How many of you realized that the Bhagavad Gita in the market can give Krishna Bhakti? Right? So many Bhagavad Gitas in place. There are 700 versions, if you really see. 700 versions of Bhagavad Gita. And people in the jail can write Bhagavad Gita, people in somewhere can write Bhagavad Gita. But how many of us can get Bhakti from Krishna? That means Krishna Bhakti is not easy. That's only possible by Srila Prabhupada. So many places like Russia, remote places, that only the Bhagavad Gita went first. And it was completely transformed. One of the township, what I heard, Bhagavad Gita somehow went there. And one day the cops saw all people wearing tilak and this kind of crazy dress. What's going on here? And then devotees went from different parts of the world to that place. So the Bhagavad Gita transformed the life of people. That is what Bhagavad Gita is, right? Especially Srila Prabhupada, as it is. So since yesterday was the Gita Jayanti, we had a wonderful celebration of Gita Jayanti, glorifying Krishna, and we read the whole Bhagavad Gita yesterday. And so many, just hearing the recitation of Bhagavad Gita, so many were inspired to even buy and sponsor. So as a team here, what we do, we take this Bhagavad Gita, distribute in hospitals, jail, nuts, whatever, wherever possible, we keep distributing to give the Krishna Bhakti. So on behalf of us, I know we are all very busy, so we cannot go and distribute each and every shop. So there is a team which can, on behalf of us, can help us doing this program. So we request all of you to sponsor at least one set of Bhagavad Gita, which is 12 books, one case.
24 softbound.
24 softbound, which is $108, which is auspicious number, and the hardbound is $120. So one set of Bhagavad Gita in a year for Krishna's service. It's an eternal credit, and that's the only thing. One thing that there's one thing in my life I can do for Krishna in a year. Please take this, be considerate, and help us during this program. Thank you. Hare Krishna.